What is going on, everybody? Hope you're all having a great Thursday. God, that was brutal yesterday. That was pretty fun with the golf. I had 20 lineups in the big one with the 200K for first. I was in first place with basically going into the back nine. I had the top three, and I had the guy who ended up finishing sixth in Pereira. Could have gotten a little bit more out of Kazire, although he put up a good score for a guy who was only five under. Just a little bit frustrating. And then I had Cam Davis, who had the monster Sunday, but it would have been a really nice. Man, it would have been a nice win to get a 200K golf win. That would have been something else. But anyway, on to baseball for today. We're going to get back to it. The site's doing well. It seems like people did well. I made money over the weekend at golf. It seems like a lot of other people did as well. I know it was a little bit of a rough week last week baseball wise. I know we had a couple of subscribers who did really well, but mostly it was just sort of a hit or miss, kind of a wild week. I like tonight's slate. It's a 7-gamer and feels very manageable and like a lot of different ways you can go. The pitching's a little bit iffy, but that's also going to open up some opportunity. Part of why it's iffy is because every team is literally stackable, except for maybe Colorado and potentially the Angels. But even those two teams, you could probably make an argument for on this kind of a small slate. But I just think there's so many ways to go. So I'm going to share my DraftKings screen real quick. I'll talk a little bit about some of my FanDuel plays as well. But we'll just go real quick through the slate, and not going to go game by game. Going to go for the focus of what we're going to be trying to do today, or at least what I'm going to be trying to do. So let me share my screen real quick and we will get to it. You can see my first this is my second sort of build, actually. I would say it's my first build, but leaving a few spots off so not to keep DraftKings pissed off. I'll just go like this just for fun. A lot of ways you could go. So basically what I'm looking at is I like the Washington Philly game, both sides, but I especially like the Philly side. It's just harder to get in because I like Josh Bell. I like Bell, Barrera, and Soto especially. And then with Philly, it's a little bit harder to pay up for Hoskins if you're doing certain builds. Now, if I want to go down with my SP2 here and play Pineda, no problem. I could do that, obviously. But I found myself squeezing in some of these. So Washington, Philly, and Boston are the three that I have targeted the most. I also really like Minnesota, but I like more two and three mans. I like the White Sox as a full stack. I like Houston as a full stack, but finding less one-offs and less two-mans in those groups, those are more fellow five-man stacks for me. And then I like the Cubs mini stacks, more one-offs, I guess you'd call it, against Wade Miley. Pretty good hitting weather in Chicago, even though with a little bit of wind going across the field, it's just a little bit better than normal this time of year. So those are sort of my main stacks. I'll post all this stuff. I'll post all my plays, all my ownerships on truedfs.com. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. We're doing a month free right now, $35 a month afterwards. But again, take a month, see how you like it, and you can always decide after that. But mostly it seems like people are doing pretty well with it. So we really appreciate all that, and we're glad you guys are up on all that. And check out that and my stuff and Sheets as well, which are, as I keep saying, the best projections in the industry. And I'm telling you exactly what I'm doing today. So that's basically what we're trying to give away. We also are here to make people better. We'll be doing some more coaching lessons, and we'll be doing videos on those. Remember, if you are a member of True DFS, hit me up in the DMs and we will schedule a time to reverse engineer some of the lines you've built and then talk through that day's slate about who you might want to play that day and why. All right, guys. So basically, I named my hitters. My pitchers are basically going to be in order as of this moment: Ohtani, Marquez, Garcia, Pineda, and Minor. I have Garcia as number one on FanDuel, although I always worry about the quality starts with Houston pitchers because if they get in trouble and the game's close, they're very quick to go to a pretty strong bullpen. But Ohtani is pretty clearly the number one option. It's just there is always variance with him. He can get a little bit wild. I'm waiting for some pitcher data. He's been pretty good, though, the last few times out, and we have the high K upside against a horrible Colorado team that they're projected for 3.4 today. They average less than 3 runs on the road, or they did at least as of a week ago. So they're one of the worst road teams in baseball, or the worst road team. Them on the road is the worst hitting in baseball, basically. Obviously, they get the American League Park jump, but they're playing from Colorado to LA, so that's a huge downgrade for them. So I like both pitchers in that LA game. That's what I'm mostly doing. But again, mixing in the Pineda, Garcia, and even Mike Minor and Nick Pivetta, who I think you can take the other sides of those games as well. Like I said, I mentioned that I like the White Sox a little bit if they do get to Minor. He's been pretty good against this specific team, but the White Sox against lefties are pretty much a lock for the season. So one of my bets of the day that you're going to see again on truedfs.com is going to be the White Sox to win that game just outright. They just win it. I mean, I don't even have it in front of me, but their record against left-handed pitching is the best in baseball. So I love the White Sox just to win the game. Still, however, on DraftKings, I think Minor definitely has the strikeout upside to be viable at 8,300 on a slate where we're sort of all over the place in pitching. So this is sort of my Washington Philly just sort of outline build. It's just a rough first draft. You obviously can throw Turner in there. Feels weird to stack Washington without Turner unless you're going to do a 4-man, which is what I'm sort of considering doing. This kid Barrera has been pretty good. He's 2,400. It saves you money at catcher. But I guess I'd highlight, so the way I would do, my different stacks, I think that if you're going to play the White Sox, I really think you really want to be playing Tim Anderson, just great against lefties in general. You probably want Abreu, and then you get the value with Stevenson, and let's just switch this up a little bit. I'm sorry, not with Stevenson. Stevenson is sort of my last man in for Washington there. But you get the value with Vaughn at 2,600, who should be batting in the middle of the order. And Adam Engel as well, who should be somewhere in the top 6. And that's the way I would sort of go about that stack. One of my favorite one-offs of today is a guy who I historically have played as much as any player, haven't been on him as much this year, but it's Miguel Sano. You get a low strikeout righty against Miguel Sano, and I'm all in business. Look, the guy's hitting 195 on the season, but he's got 15 home runs. When you strike out almost 40% of the time and you negate that, to some extent, you cut that in half, basically, is what Manning's strikeout rate is against the league average at the moment. Sano is an awesome play, and he's cheap over on FanDuel too. So I like Sano quite a bit as a one-off at first base. The problem is this Minnesota lineup isn't quite what it used to be. We'll wait to see if Larnach makes the lineup. He would be a priority for my Minnesota stacks. Again, with the stacks outside of Chicago and Houston, I probably am going to end up doing 4-man stacks to get a little bit different today. So the White Sox and Houston would be my 5-man stacks. The other ones are going to be 4-men, which is going to be Boston, Philly, and Washington, who I all expect to have some ownership, but you can find ways to get different within the stacks. Josh Donaldson obviously would go in this stack if you're going to go with the Minnesota way. Garver's expensive at catcher, so you can do whatever you want sort of over there. But you could throw Kepler in, who's totally affordable at 3,700, and something like that for Minnesota. For the White Sox, it's basically everybody that 1 through 6. For the Houston, I would say it's basically everybody, but you have incredibly great prices. You can play them more as one-offs today because Kyle Tucker's been red hot. He's 3,400, and you've got Michael Brantley at 3,100. So those are the guys who I'd be looking to try and get in for my Houston stacks. Obviously, if you play a Houston stack, you're going to probably want to try and find a way to get Altuve in at a weak position. I don't mind that at all. The late night hammer certainly makes a lot of sense to me. But I think I'm prioritizing some 4-2-2, some 4-3-1s with Washington, Philly, Boston being the base. With Boston, I like that you can go different routes with it. I think it's going to give you different options. So I like Kike at second base. Again, not my favorite position in the world. I like JD always. They finally raised his price a little bit, but JD is still one of the best pitchers in baseball against Hatch in what should be somewhat of a bullpen game. Although he could end up going to a few innings. He ended up getting scratched in his last start, so we haven't seen him pitch a deep into a game, but he did it last time, his first start ever last year. But it's in Boston, great hitting weather. I do like the Red Sox. I think they make a lot of sense as a stack. I think they're popular. Devers is expensive, but obviously a guy you'd probably try and want to get in. I'm okay with going without him though, and maybe skipping either Devers and or Bogarts. That doesn't feel great to do that, but you can even go like this and get different exposure to the stack and get a nice little 4-man Boston that has reasonable enough correlation. And Verdugo has been struggling, but overall is an excellent hitter. And when the stadium's like this, I just feel like this is a good time to buy low on him at 3,500. He's a guy I have for some of my value. And I'm going to list all my plays, but I'll highlight through some of the individuals and the one-offs that I like, that you can also use in stacks. I really like Garcia. I really like Sano. He's one of my favorite priorities at first base. I think people will play Josh Bell over him, which makes perfect sense. Josh Bell's been swinging a great bat. I actually like Josh Bell, but if I use Miguel Sano with my Washington stack, it's going to differentiate me again. And this is what you're looking for on a small slate. So you have, both guys with similar power with Sano and Bell, both in good matchups, and Bell with probably a lot more ownership than Sano has is my guess. At first glance. So I'm very high on Sano and Bell both. So Sano, Kepler, Donaldson, Wisdom. I didn't mention the Cubs very much, but I like Wisdom. Miley's a good pitcher, but you get Wisdom against a lefty at only 4K. I think that's a very interesting. I also think if you're going to make a mini stack, try and play him with a guy like Chris Bryant, because that's just going to be a little bit different because, you have to use Chris Bryant then in the outfield. Again, outfields are at a premium as always. But I do think if you can play those two guys as like a little 2-man, there is some power upside against Miley and with decent hitting weather. Not great, but decent hitting weather in Chicago. Juan Soto, just been absolutely awesome since the break. Leads the league in home runs since the break. Leads the league in slugging since the break. He had a 0 for 3 day. I don't care. Look at these numbers overall. He's one of those guys. If you fade him, you get nervous that he's going to put up a 35 and just kill you. Verdugo, Devers, JD Martinez. I am not as high on the Toronto for a couple different reasons. Now, Pivetta gives up hard contact. I do think Toronto will have some ownership. I think that any of them, look, they're awesome. Play Vlad as a one-off if you want to. Play Teoscar as a one-off. Play Springer as a one-off. Play Bichette as a one-off. Play a two-man. Play whatever. Pavetta's pitched against this team a couple times in Toronto, which oddly enough is actually a better power hitters park, which is how these guys have gotten to him. I'm not going to play Pivetta much because the strikeout upside is pretty low against a Toronto team that, with all that power, you'd think they'd strike out more, and they actually just don't. They're I believe, 4th or 5th lowest in the league in strikeouts against right-handed pitching. But we know Pivetta has some upside in general and has actually been a pretty decent pitcher this year. Just gives up some hard contact. So I have some other ones. I think that there's I mentioned. I think I mentioned I had in my original screen Bryce Harper, Didi Gregorius. Some of the value, Jock Peterson, Michael Brantley, Kyle Tucker, Larnach, Vaughn, David Bodie for another one of the Cubs who I didn't mention, but he does, historically have decent enough power. And he's hit 3 home runs in his last 5 games, and he's 2,200 at third base. So David Bodie's a weird way to, spend down. I don't even mind him as a one-off. Just hope for that power upside. Third base is pretty strong, but David Bodie could certainly take Miley deep once and get you different and save you some money at third base. So definitely something I'm considering doing. Other values, Dozier, Jorge Soler, Barrera, I mentioned as a catcher, Dunning for the Red Sox in their stacks, Naquin as probably more as a one-off than anything else, and then Diaz. So that's sort of the route I'm looking to take today. Hopefully this is helpful. I'll do my 5 and 5 later, and I'll update all my sheets on TrueDFS.com. Good luck to everybody out there, and let's have somebody. Let's win some tournaments. Let's get a true DFSer to take one down tonight, and hopefully finish a little better than I ended up in golf. Even though I did make money, it's just really tough when you look like you got that 200K win off of a very small investment, and would have been sweet. Anyway, guys, we're on to a new one. Let's crush it this week, and good luck to everybody out there. Hopefully, you all crush, and we will see you at the top of the leaderboards.